What's good, everybody? This is Queen Common Sense coming back to you from the shy breezy to the sticks in North Kakalaka. It is the wee witching hours of the morning. And as usual, I can't sleep. So I wanted to get some shit off. And boy, do I have content. Um, I just have been really bothered by deliberate willful ignorance. And for some reason, it's 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 more than just with the general population. It's a disappointment in how our elders can wag their finger and pontificate, hiding behind God, and they rarely practice what they preach. Now, for me personally, I'm an introvert, so it's like I rarely tap into that stigma of worrying about what people think or how I look to people watching. I've always been about staying in my lane, drinking my water, and minding my own business. Now, I'm a responder and I will shut some shit down. And on the same token, you know, I will call out things that just don't fall in line with righteousness and decent morality parameters. I'm just really over the tired double standards of a lot of our elders. Now, there are many elders that I have met who, I mean, amazing, righteous, upright, you know, very high moral standards, and they walk that walk as well as talk that talk. But we all have those family members, and a lot of the times it's the mother. I have one of those mothers who has cognitive dissonance, and it's akin to bumping into a racist that doesn't know that they're racist until you tell them that they're racist. And it's exhausting, to put it plain. It is very time consuming, and it it really it really creates a lot of internal rage for those who have to deal with individuals who are just plain difficult. Just plain old damn difficult. Um, I speculate that my mother suffers from, you know, some traits of narcissism. And for a very long time, I could not figure out what was wrong with that woman. And then, the wonderful world of books, and then, of course, the World Wide Web emerged, and I was able to start putting a name to the disturbing, shocking, devastating energy that I was experiencing from my mother. You know, um, my parents have a very traditional marriage, and you know, I don't think it really worked very well for my mother in many ways because we all need, you know, a break from our responsibilities in the family. And we all need to, have that variety of different type of interaction, social interaction with our peers, coworkers, if we're working mothers or stay at home mothers, it's still work. But you need to get out and get a break and mix things up socially and whatnot. But for me, in my personal situation, um, by the time I came along, I was, you know, very much younger than my three older siblings. And by the time I came along, I think my mother was of the mind that she didn't want any more children. You know, most people, try for their girl, their boy, and then they're done. And some people want as many as they can have, doesn't matter what gender children are born. But for my mother, I think she really wasn't expecting to have any more. And that can take a toll on a family, especially the child or children that were unexpected, if you will, surprises. Um, and it shows up in a lot of different ways. For me, it showed up with a lot of passive aggressive gaslighting, um, a lot of crazy making, lots and lots of crazy making, circle talking, dodging, deflecting, projecting. And it drove me crazy. And I think, I don't think, I know for a fact that I was barely surviving because inside I felt like I was drowning. I was so overwhelmed, and I would have these silent panic attacks. And I think that's why a lot of people are shocked when I respond in a more animated way to certain things and certain triggers because I'm Virgo. I can ignore you so hard that it hurts your feelings. And a lot of that was more for me than it was for the person doing the poking. And my mother is a good poker. She can poke that bear. Okay. And I began to develop over time a callus for just over the top, extra, far reaching jabs and digs. Um, but in my soul, I would feel like I was bleeding out, you know, because nothing, nobody can hurt you worse than family. Nobody can hurt you worse than family. And especially coming from my mother. Um, and it would be clear out of left field and from the blue sky. Sometimes she would just pop off. And it made me feel smaller than the height between a cricket's ass and the ground. And I just couldn't understand why she was so facetious when I was a young woman and a little girl. And once I began to read and study and try to figure out, figure me out, as well as figure out the dynamic of my family, specifically between my mother and I, she treated me much different than she did the older three siblings. And because people get in a habit of doing things a certain way for so long, they get stuck in their way. So after that settles in, you know, they have a very violent adverse reaction to constructive criticism or just, uh, uh, a heads up to how they affect you long term with that type of behavior. And my mother is one of those. There's just some people you cannot disagree with. You cannot point anything out in their character. Otherwise, you gonna be at it with that person for a good 2, 3 days, just depending on the subject and depending on if they here for the smoke. And a lot of it is delusion, living in denial, so that you can complete the assignment of raising children, getting them up and out the house and on their own 2 feet successfully and unscathed for the most part, all in one piece. And my mother is a fence rider. She likes to ride the fence, and she is a lot of times very inept when it comes to boundaries and understanding what those mean and why they're there. Um, a lot of times with our elders, that come from the baby boom, the 60s and the 50s, and born in that time frame, or no, I'm sorry, the 30s and the 40s. During that time span, it was very taboo for the Black community to uh, acknowledge and even admit to mental illness. And as we all know, at least we should know, uh, even back then, mental illness is real, and there was a lot of affliction mentally among our elders, um, because of the traumas that they have experienced just trying to function from day to day due to racism and white supremacy, you know, which is a lot of times something that transforms into generational curses that we pass on as tradition. And it's hard to draw that line between discipline and abuse, correction and emotional neglect and abuse, consequences and character building versus just straight up verbal annihilation. And so my mother is very good at verbal abuse. And a lot of times I just would listen and I'd be like, what, where is this coming from? you know, like sitting in, your favorite chair at the house, and just reading a book. And imagine, your mother coming in, you're like 13, 14 years old, your mother coming in the room and she just start, you know, talking about, you know, hypothetical situations that in your mind you would never dream of doing it, thinking about it, planning it, even considering it. And these are all topics of things that she has carried with her throughout her life that are fears, you know, and she's internalized a lot of things. And then, with her children, she's projecting those fears onto her children, which is that curse. that generational curse of, the boogeyman, you know. And a lot of times parents, our elders, they do their parenting and communicating through their own trauma. So they wind up, you know, just having their children inherit that same curse. And I discovered in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, that I was the curse breaker of my family. And it, honey, was not easy. Um, it wasn't easy. And I don't think our elders consider how difficult they make things, how difficult it is to balance keeping them content, and confident in, hey, you look, you did a good job raising me. I'm good. Versus nothing you do will ever be satisfactory in my eyes because of my own personal issues that I'm projecting onto you. And I bumped into a lot of people like this over the years, and it was a double sided shock because I'm like, I thought my mama was the only person who displayed these behaviors. The emotional immaturity when a lot of our elders are respectfully, excuse me, called to the carpet. You see the defensiveness, the whole 9 yards, and then, start getting loud, ratchet, cussing, and some people even want to swing on you, But I don't think they give a damn how difficult it is to exist, let alone function, just exist under that type of heavy, overwhelming pressure. Stress, mental stress, emotional stress causes long term brain damage, which is why I do believe many of us suffer from the mental afflictions we have, and a lot of us are ignorant to it. We don't want to face it. We don't want to own it as it's okay to not be okay. You know, they these elders, they stay stuck, spiritually stuck. And being a curse breaker, you can't be stuck. Being a alchemist, a spiritualist, um, some people call it energy benders, witches, whatever, wizards, magicians, conjurers. You can't be spiritually stuck. As a healer, we have to understand how to heal the self. And it's not a destination, it's a journey. You never stop. And life happens. We get injured along the way in many different ways. We stumble, we take the wrong turn, we get that GPS jacked up sometimes. So you have to understand how to heal yourself to be able to keep evolving and growing. And it used to make me really sad that my mom was not growing beyond her trauma. And then that sadness evolved into empathy. Because even though my mother and I are like oil and water, and she has caused a lot of strife in my life, I still don't want to see anybody that I love suffer, whether it be physically, mentally, or spiritually. And it's especially difficult pill to swallow when it's deliberate, just clinging, holding on to the pain because you're afraid to let it go. You're fear the other side of that, what that looks like, what it feels like. And I just, you know, put in so much time and wasted so much effort just trying to help her stay in a happy place. I internalized a lot of it and I took it upon myself as my responsibility that, you know, I just want to see her happy and make her happy. Because there was a lot of pieces missing, a lot of broken pieces swept under that proverbial rug. And it just shattered my heart to be the emotional punching bag of my one and only mother. And her happiness meant a lot to me, and it still does. Her happiness meant a lot to me. And not just, oh, well, I want her to be happy about for me. Just her overall general chi, her center. I wanted her to be happy and content with herself, with her efforts of raising her family, anything, anything she was connected to. I just wanted to see her happy. Who doesn't? When you love your mama, you want to see her happy. You want to help her through any challenges as a good, you know, loving child. You want to see your mama happy. You want to make her happy. You want to put a smile on her face. You want to hold her hand like she held yours when you were growing up. And we just never quite got there, to that space where she could just breathe and say, "Hey, nothing been nothing too bad. I did a pretty good job, may have made some mistakes, fumbled a little bit, but hey, who doesn't, right? Overall, the people that I have shared this journey with and raised up are pretty damn good people. And that's really that count. You put somebody out into society and produced good, compassionate, accountable people. You feel me? And for the most part, you know, the four of us are decent, you know. Um, I'll save that for another video. But for the most part, productive members of society is what we all are, for the most part. And Simply put, I just can't figure out what the fuck, is wrong with my mama. Why now, in the sunset phase of her life, she's still very pissed off and angry and resentful and spiteful. And that is something that is a trigger for me because growing up, that I was around a lot of those type of elders who were very bitter with life. So they treated us very poorly, as children and young people under them. And back then it was, I'm the adult. I say what the fuck I want to say, do what the hell I want to do, and tough cookies if you don't like it. Little girl, you are a child and you are meant to be seen and not heard. You feel me? That's how that works. So a lot of ways I was very sheltered from being rebellious. I was always striving to be, a good little girl. Just be good, be obedient, be accountable, and that way you train yourself to be in the habit of just being a good person, despite what bad people do to take you out of character, and that is pleasing to your parents and of course to God, right? And I was one of those. I was a little square lame. I loved being a good girl. I liked answering first in class. I liked understanding the material that nobody else wanted to learn. I was always in the library. I just love learning new things and learning about new things. And I think in a lot of ways that intimidated my mother because she did not earn her college degree. And two out of four of us went on to get our higher education. And being the youngest and so much younger, I think it was a little bit shocking for her to have me clap back like I do, and have a very strong lexicon and understanding of I know what I see when I see it, and uh, you're not gonna tinkle on me and tell me it's sunshine, okay, or lemonade. And my mother does not like the pushback, you know, when she gaslights me. So that makes it really difficult to have a healthy bond with my mother because she has so many unresolved issues that sabotage what could be and could have been a very beautiful journey with my mama. Now, thank God she's still alive. Both my parents are still alive. However, our bond is very, very fractured, very damaged. And it's due to, that holding on to things, hold grudges, refusing to just bury the hatchet. That's another layer of heartbreak that has been very challenging to navigate life with that weighing on my heart because I'm like a hopeless romantic to a degree when I see happy families, happy couples, any dynamic of the family unit having just their best life. It makes me very happy to see that, especially brown people. And it's a soft spot for me when I see daughters and mothers together as adult children with their mom out on the town or traveling. It tugs on my heart because I'm like, God, I wish my mom and I could do stuff like this, you know? And I just didn't ever really realize the true power that I have within as far as being able to articulate exactly what I see because energy doesn't lie. And I go back by, how a person make me feel and how they treat me and those that they say they love. And a lot of times in the era of our elders, they programmed, subconsciously programmed, you know, us to accept abuse as love. You know, girl, get your ass in here and help me cut up these greens. That in these days is abusive. Is rude. Back then, we just, chin up, wash your hands, put your apron on, and go help. It doesn't matter if that's your mama talking to you like that, auntie. You just get some motion under your feet and do what you're told. Now we have gentle parenting, which I am a fan of, where, you know, we are called to a higher standard to be more cognizant of how we talk to our children and practicing to pause before we speak or act. I never was a huge promoter of corporal punishment with mine, like it was when I was growing up. And thankfully, I did not step out of character to the point where I needed to be, you know, struck with a belt or an object. Now, did I can I say that it never happened? No, I can't say that because I used to duck like objects all the time. When the household would get a little bit too rowdy, and my mother had to discipline us, and it was mostly my older siblings who got the belt, and I'd be sitting there traumatized trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. Why these older people, teenagers and stuff, could not uh keep their damn hands to themselves. And eventually I got pulled into that and made the scapegoat. And it was just easier to reach for me because I was the path of least resistance, because whatever issue she had with our spouse, her spouse rather, excuse me, or, my older siblings, you know, they would be, gone with friends or out at school or whatever. And I was the youngest, the baby. So I got it. I caught it sometimes with both barrels. And I just remember being so stunned and confused. I would just sit there and I wouldn't say anything. And, the older we get, the more our personalities form and we can start to think a little bit more critically, look at details, paying attention more to certain things than we would when we are younger, toddlers and, elementary school age and kindergarten, things like that. And I would just notice like I noticed she get, real crunk with me. And she didn't have the same approach with my older sister. So I'm like, you go start kind of inquire, like, why you know, get crazy with me like that? She did that same thing. You didn't go in on her like that, you know? And also, my sister was not very street savvy. She was a little bit more lame than me. I spent more time hanging out with my brother and my dad. And I was, into sports and professional classic dancing. I was striving to become a dancer and things like that. So I really wasn't, big on frilly shit, and I was very militant growing up because of the 70s, and the Black conscious movement and things like that. I I couldn't be rocked to sleep real easy. You feel me? But I noticed my mother, becoming more uh seemed like more angry, more mean, you know. And I just say, you know, when it comes up, I process it and then it comes out. And I try to articulate it in a fashion that's very easy to understand me. So there ain't no misunderstandings. We don't got to do the gaslighting, circle talking, and the backpedaling. But my mother is a professional deflector, detractor. Um, so it's been a really rough, bumpy ride. And things are taking a 180 now. And just seeing her stuck, spiritually stuck, you know, missing the assignment as an elder, kind of being out of touch with reality. And it's like a permanent curse. And to think about it like that, it's like I just broke something that people said could never be broken. We're gonna always be, you know, uh Johnny come lately. Black folks ain't never gonna get it together. We're gonna always be jacked up and we're gonna always have these problems. We're gonna never be able to unite. Families are broken and irreparable damage has been done, you know, mother against daughter, son against father, living in revelation times. And it's true. That is happening. But for me, I never would have ever thought that I could pierce that shell and break this horrible ancient generational curse of narcissistic programming and gaslighting and crazy making that seems to be inherited by our babies when they're born because the mother or the father or the parents do not heal that broken little person before they become a spouse and a parent. And it really makes me worry now more than upset that her spirit is not protected for when she transitions, if that makes sense. I want her. to understand that it's okay to let go of the pain. It's okay to acknowledge, you know, maybe I could have done things a little different. Maybe I can listen better. Maybe I can understand more instead of being rigid. That's the way I was raised, so that's the way I'm gonna do mine. And if you don't raise yours that way, then out to the left you go. So, in this transition of purging for the sake of evolution, I ask the ancestors in the universe to just uplift and heal the spirit of those people, especially mothers who have fractured connection with their daughters. We're going to talk about the dads and the sons later, but um, it's extremely important to keep your spirit and your soul intact while raising children. Before even conceiving those children, you know, the parents both should really self evaluate. It's a very serious decision when you choose to become a parent. And when a mother is traumatized and then she becomes pregnant after, her psyche has made the decision, you know, this is, we're not going to have any more children. This will be the last go round, you know, whether it be one, three, or 10 children. And then boom, you're surprised with that one that you didn't quite plan for. It takes a really huge effect on that child, and the well-being mentally and emotionally of that child is in danger if the mother does not catch it before it damages the child through abuse, neglect, whatever. Okay. So it's real important not to stay stuck. We have a lot of things at our fingertips now virtually for mental health and well being and maintenance of that mental health. To just, it's okay to give yourself a, you know, once over, to take itinerary of where you are spiritually. Are you uneasy? Are you unhappy? Are you angry? Because that transmutes into that unborn child, into that fetus. And then that child is born with invisible issues, PTSD, anxiety, all kind of things. It shows up different when a mother is unhealed and gives birth. So, y'all don't stay stuck. Try not to stay stuck. Do whatever kind of divination you could do. I mean, people do church, the Bible, whatever along the lines of your heritage, your traditions, your culture, and it's a big deal. Spiritual warfare has commenced, and the inception of it has been a good part of 20 years ago. Um, the attack on the psyche of our black and brown people, our babies. It's nothing new. You know, we've been doing this ever since the Generation X emerged with all the weirdness that we had on deck, and now um, with the drill music and the whole 9 yards of all the pill popping designer drugs circling back around, making a 180. You know, all the fentanyl and things like that. You know, seen it, heard it all before, just a little bit more twisted than that uh Ready Rock era. So we need to get unstuck, and there's a whole army of chosen beings who are beyond the intellect of what we say as human. We see a lot of things coming that a lot of the mainstream don't see and refuse to tap into. Um, so we're working on getting unstuck. We got to get unstuck, Black people. We have got to give ourselves permission to just let a lot of things go and return it back to sender, because it's not our luggage to unpack or carry. And with that being said, my little four-legged baby over here is antsy, and I need to take him out. And I'm going to end it here for now. One love, one family. Hotep, namaste. Until later. Common sense out.